Let's begin by getting very relaxed, whether you're sitting or lying down. Allow your weight to drop into the chair, the bed, or the floor beneath you. Focus on your breathing, the slow breaths moving in and out of your body. As you breathe in, you'll feel your ribcage gently expanding. And as you breathe out, your shoulders will drop down. It's like that out breath is taking away a small bit of tension from your body. To breathe in a sense of spaciousness, lightness and calm. Feel that great warm space filling you, moving through you like a golden tide, around you and out again, out into the room. Carry on breathing in without forcing anything. Let the air come in as easily as it wants. Move around you and out again. So you're gently expanding, contracting with each breath. Imagine too that any hurts, any aches or tiredness in your body, these are being released out as you breathe outwards. Breathe in those warm, gentle breaths. Take them to where in your body you're feeling tired, drawn, worn out. Imagine your breath can massage through those areas, making all that's hard, soft and syrupy, moving through and leaving you completely relaxed. And now your whole body, as you breathe in, the breath is golden, warming, light as a feather. Not just breathing down to the back, down to the spine, but even further down the legs, all the way down to your feet, to your toes and back up again. Like your breath is a slow, quiet wind, and you yourself are a tiny speck of dust or a light feather, easily moved by this breeze, exploring these empty tunnels, these caverns that you're being carried through. That great wheel of breath is moving round inside you, in and out. Your eyes are closed and you're being carried now to a space wider, taller, greater than your body. Let your breath be a breeze that picks up that tiny speck of you that thinks, that normally lives sitting between the eyes, just above them. That speck is now scooped up, carried upwards, up on the breeze. If any muscles feel like they're straining to keep a certain position, try relaxing them. Let all your weight fall backwards. Surrender completely to the motion of breathing in and out. Noticing how your limbs gently move as you do this, very minutely. Explore the breath around your body. Now let's imagine, while you're so relaxed, keeping that breathing very gentle without really having to think about it at all. Imagine you're walking along back in the days before lockdown, before COVID. You're inside a shopping centre. Around you there are people milling about. There's a faint, bland music playing overhead somewhere. Some of the people passing you are talking. You spot different accents. There are lots of people on their phones you have to watch out for, who aren't watching where they're going. And the stores beyond this gentle obstacle course, they're stores that don't really float your boat. It feels like you're with some people You came here with them, perhaps family or friends, but rather like in a dream, they're indistinct presences over at the periphery of your senses. They feel they're with you, but they're not really with you. Or perhaps the thing is, you're not quite sure which version of you this is walking here in all this artificial brightness, inhaling this air that feels like it's been quite a while since it touched the outside. As you walk along in this crowd, in all this light, who do you feel that you are? Your feet have drawn slower, and now they've stopped in the tiled wall between two storefronts. There's a split in the masonry, an opening revealing in the tall narrow gap some metal railings. If you go a little bit nearer, you find it's a spiral staircase made of Victorian looking wrought iron. Now the mall has tried to tile over this gap in the walls. Many ceramic tiles are littered around you on the ground, where they've fallen off, and others are partly fallen off and they unfurl around this gap in the wall like petals, rather like they're being spat out by it. And it's this dark opening that's interesting to you. Mind's eye, feel out with both of your hands and feel your way forwards with your feet as well, moving your feet between the tiles on the ground, probing forwards until they tap their way onto metal. Your hands find the iron railings of the staircase, cold under the skin, and you can turn sideways, inching your way through this gap in the wall. As you stand now fully on this first step of this staircase, it feels strong enough to take your weight. You remind yourself that in architecture at least, those Victorians knew what they were doing, and you're starting now to spiral down this staircase, one step after the other. For a few moments, feel it moving, feel the world spiral past you, going down in the faint light that comes through the opening as you leave that upper world behind. The music's faded away with the hum of voices. Instead, you can hear your feet padding over the rungs. You feel the world rotating round you, laying one palm of your hand on the cool iron banister, and in the other one reaching out, trying to feel where the center space of this spiral staircase is, where each step meets, forming a column. It takes you on a tight, coiling journey downwards. You can't make out where it leads, or if you're meant to be in here, but at the same time, everything feels good, unwinding inside you. This isn't a menacing darkness, but a warming one. It's a friendly one, and its games are well-meaning. You feel like all the humdrum, mundane thoughts cluttering up your head that were so prevalent up in the brightly lit upper world, they're being unwound as you spiral down. You're opening up, and all the boredom you felt up there in those tedious shops, that boredom is sticking to the spiral as you go by, and you're going down, becoming more and more clean, until finally the steps have reached their very end. Your next footsteps are onto dusty, stony ground. Your hands leave the metal. They move out through the open air, and you feel something press against one of your thighs. We're inside an old stone cellar from medieval times or earlier. It has that earthy, slightly salty smell of bare rock exposed underground, and the air is cooler. It's infused with the richness of being far below the streets. It's lit by a few flaming torches that are set in brackets in the walls, and they show that this seems to have been a cave with a few stone columns added at some point, stretching up to a simple but impressive vaulted stone roof, perhaps pressing up there to keep everything safe. Most of all, you're struck by how quiet it is down here, how every tiny movement of your feet on the floor is amplified, seems loud, like you're in a cinema auditorium listening to a soundtrack. And as for what pushed against your thigh, if you turn round, you'll sense it spread out before you, to left and right. The walls of this cave were hollowed out a little bit further at waist height, so before you on either side, running all the way round the room, the stone provides a kind of a shelf or a table, and on this surface, on the stone, there are strewn many, many ancient items. Things like animal bones, napped flints. There are handfuls of grain in tiny little cracked ceramic pots, flower heads cut long ago, all dried and brown. At some time this subterranean chamber must have been open to the public. Down there in the dust you can see a few faded yellow notices typed on a typewriter. You notice how the holes in the O's are blacked out. And these notices seem to say that all the objects on display down here were found in the boat, and nobody knows what they were left for. You wonder if that's some kind of mistype, but it does seem the word is boat. If you turn your head this way and that, and reach up one of your hands to take one of those flaming torches, closing your fingers round the shaft, lifting it up carefully, out of the bracket, now you can hold that torch aloft. You'll feel the heat of those flames near your face. You might hear that torch hissing and crackling as it burns and smell its oily, sooty smoke. With the light that it provides, throw that left and right over these objects, move around the room. There's only you down here. You can do whatever you like. For a few moments here, find what objects are laid out around you in all this dust. Your torch is lighting this cellar brightly. The flames from it caper about, seeming to lick the objects with orange, pulling black shadows one way and the next like rubber. And there's so many objects laid around here. Here's a tiny house carved out of bone, a fairy-sized cloth bag filled with dark stones. There's a strong-looking pair of legs whittled out of a branch. Your hands are moving faster now. Each touch superimposes before you the object as it was when it was fresh and new, when it was shiny and clean, and before dust and time took away its sheen. You touch an ancient pair of strong boots, and still there's some give in the leather. Then a cold knife with a handcrafted blade, and every nick in that metal tells a story. There are some old glass beads on a long gone thread, yet you can still pick them up in their original ring. and now you're touching things no longer here in the present at all. A painting on vellum of a patch of land that, as you hold it up in the torch, seems to be cleared of stones. Generations of ploughing have gone into it, and now it's swaying in the summer with crops. And here is a horseshoe as wide as your hand, and though it's not glowing, it's faintly warm from the forge. You're finding things wherever you touch that you can hold, yet they're not here at all, they're long gone. You're reaching into the past. As each object finds you, as it weights down your hand, whether your eyes can see it or not, you understand how short-sighted these typed signs are. You're beginning to know just what these offerings were for. The people down here gave gifts of what they didn't have. They gave what they wanted to receive. A dream, a desire was their request. For a while down here, you've been thinking you can hear a faint shuffle of feet over the dusty floor. Although you can't see anybody, it seems natural to sense that people are nearby. You've been brushed by their clothing, you can feel it as they move near, and it seems to all your senses except your eyes, you're in the middle of an occupied room. We have this altar place around us, this space, this ledge laid with objects. So down here, amongst all these other ancient things, let's leave a dream of your own that you'll make an offering of. In a few moments, I want you to dig deep, to bring forth something you really want to have. Before you make your final choice, think here about this gift. Perhaps if you're holding a crystal in your hand in real life, the idea will come from there, through your hand, up into your brain. But however it comes, wherever it's from, you might want to leave it as a mental picture, or a line of words that you silently utter, or something else that you know you're good at, a painting, a spoken tale, a poem, needlework. You know what your thing is, what you're good at. So dig deep now in the next few moments. Find some object you want, or some direction in life you're ready now to step into, because tonight your calendar's finally rolled around, so you can take the first step towards it. That sense of the living, breathing presence of people has grown around you to the point you're moving forwards through the cave. It's longer than you first thought, and the cave ceiling rises higher, and the walls are pulling back, so we have to call it a cavern now. It's a round, echoing place, and it's echoing with voices that gently talk, with whispers that are close to your ear. All very familiar and yet never quite discernible as words. But the people are visible now around you. It's a modest crowd of, say, 30 people, and it moves you onwards. It seems these people aren't of the same time as you, but it all is so natural, you feel you've known them a long time already. If this is a you from the past, you don't quite understand how your feet down there are still in their modern shoes or boots or socks, and there are your legs down there as well in whatever you put on to wear today. In the end, you give up on trying to figure it out. Instead, you lift up your torch, aware again of the heat of the flames near one cheek, smelling that oily, sooty smoke. Now the flames can't reveal where the cavern ceiling is. It's got much higher. Other people are holding torches as well, and instead you notice the many heads, hats, people wearing capes around you, friendly faces that glance over you and then away again, all absorbed in the adventure of whatever's at the end of this cavern. Ahead of you, the people have slowed down. One at a time, someone rises up for a moment, above all those heads. They seem to be climbing over a wall. Their head is there for a second and then they drop down again out of sight. As everybody shuffles nearer, as you get closer and more people go over, you find this wall is made out of shining dark wood, planks laid sideways. Rearing up in the torchlight to one side of you, there's a great carved dragon, his wide grainy eyes fixed on the distance. And this is a ship. As hands take your arms suddenly and help you climb up a ladder laid against the boat side, you rise upwards. Overhead at the very top of the wall, the mast rises up out of view, but instead of sails and rigging is black netting, nets rolled up and bulging with gold coins. Such a weight of coins it sags down overhead. You want to have a closer look and try and move your torch, but instead you've been turned at the very top of this ladder, with your legs straddling this wooden wall. You're being helped over by a man with a long moustache, with piercing eyes. Here at the apex of the wall, his eyes search yours, and he takes that torch firmly out of your grasp. His eyes are still locked on yours, and here you need to share your dream, your offering with him. So hold it for a moment as clearly as you can in your mind. You hear in the background the chink of metal on metal, and he releases his gaze from yours. He releases your arm from his grip. Now you're being guided over by many hands, down again off the top of the wall. The interior of the boat has many seats, and you're led to sit on a wooden plank. Overhead the ceiling has returned, faint in the torchlight. You're so high up on this boat, the light can find the cavern's roof again. You're sitting here now with warm shoulders of strangers pressing against yours left and right. There's the gentle murmur of voices all around, those quiet whispers that never quite translate into words. When the ship moves forwards, it does it so smoothly, the only indication is the slow passage of the rock ceiling overhead in the torchlight. The waters of the lake are utterly clear. They slide away on all sides underneath the rock ceiling, strata grained in dark and light bands. Millions of years of erosion slowly formed these lightless chambers that we're now exploring in the boat. At times the great forces push through here, through any gap in the rock, wrenching them wider. But for many more years it's been gentle, gradual, like a forgotten experiment running in the background. Now everything seems immeasurably calm. The water is still and smooth as far as the torches reveal, broken only where the boat cut through here. The boat moves so smoothly there aren't even sounds of water, just the occasional creak of wooden boards, the very faint chink overhead from all those coins. Something heavy, wide and flat is placed onto your lap. It's a wooden plate carved around its edges, smooth from passing through many hands over the years, and the polish has worn away in its center from the many rocks it holds. This plate is filled with crystals of many different colors, sizes, shapes. Some are smooth protrusions, others are still rough and unpolished. And you will not find any crystal from your life so far in this plate. It seems like the people around you sitting here row after row, have already had the plate and taken a crystal from it. Now you're to choose one and pass the plate onwards. Perhaps your fingers have already started exploring, but you feel your neighbour tap your hand, and they shake their head, and they show by spreading their fingers in 2 fans that you're to hold your hands over the plate. Let your palms report which stone to take. So try this. Hold your hands out face down over the plate, and let the inputs come from your fleshy soft palms. Let them feel any reports of heat or coolness, and move your hands minutely back and forth over the surface. As well as hotness or coldness, you might feel a prickling in the skin, like a poke from a toothpick. You might even feel that your hands have eyes of their own, and they can see in a different way. They can see with your palm nerves. And while you're scanning this way, remember as well your dream that got you onto the boat. This dream you want to have blooming about you in the next few months. For a few moments, by whoever it chooses to make itself known to you, find the right crystal for you from this plate, and when you have it, pick it up, pass on the plate, and then hold this stone's weight there in your palms, and notice what kind of stone it is, if it's one you know the name of, if it's a colour you like, and whether it's one you'd expect to choose. The walls to this cavern have drawn nearer. Now the torchlight has a bluey green hint to it, and it seems to penetrate a lot further. You're sitting here on the boat. You feel people's shoulders to either side of you holding you up. You have the stone that you chose there in your hands, and when you let your mind drop into it, it's a curious space where dark and light seem to be the same. The stone in its center point also has a speck of consciousness that thinks, just like you have between your eyes. But this stone's thinking is through a surging outwards, a flow of streaks, just like a sparkler tip. It burns light and dark together, its streaks never ceasing. Now in this meditation, you can stay in this crystal as much as you like, but I'd like you to bring your mind out just now, because on the boat, people are talking with more animation. Some are pointing and heads are turning left and right. Everyone thought that the cavern walls were getting nearer, but instead, these are stalactites and stalagmites, rising down and up to form walls. In places over the millennia, they've fused together in one column, and it's these spindly curtains of stone that are beginning to form walls, chambers, enclosures inside this enormous cavern. As your boat continues exploring, the blue-green light that's being emitted around you reveals the elegant tapering shapes of this rock. The dark and light bands of strata in these slender stone fingers reaching up, dripping down, seeming to be as polished as wax. As well as the walls, there are floors stretching out, platforms of stone, smooth, reaching off to the far reaches of the cavern with these waterways between them. These and the walls of spindly stone that you pass through indicate this cavern was used as a vast house, a house based on the principle of boating from room to room. On the stone platforms, you can see crude, functional furniture carved out of the same rock. This was meant to be a dining room that you're passing through right now. It has chairs and tables crudely made out of rock, albeit for a much larger family size. Those chairs stretch away from adult-sized in quite a long row, all the way down to infant. We pass another spindly stone curtain. The boat turns round smoothly in the water, takes us into a living room, a lounge. There are some stone couches, tables of stone holding game boards of rock. We pass round the next turn, and beyond this wall of stone, here's a bathroom, all made out of rock. And so we go, past a kitchen, bedrooms, some curious place of bones and weapons that perhaps was a hobby room or a den. As we go through this enormous house, the cavern's getting lighter, brighter. We no longer need the flames to see by. The blue-white light is showing the far walls of the cavern, and the ceiling overhead is wobbling with the light reflecting off the water. The rooms are getting progressively larger and no longer need stalactite curtains to separate them. Now each room can separate itself simply by distance. Finally, the boat has drawn up to one of those stone floors, and everybody's beginning to disembark. Once you're standing out of that boat, imagine in your mind's eye how you stretch your back straight after sitting all that time. Push out your shoulders. It feels really good to be on firm ground again on this rock. You have your crystal still in your hand. Whenever you check, you can drop your mind into it, and the sparkling insides are still there to be explored, where dark and light burn as one. And when you return your focus to the cavern, you find you're walking over stone that's been smoothed, perhaps by centuries of lapping water, but it also seems by centuries of feet, human feet. And we're now in the bell room. You first sense it through the distant light, picking its way through these gigantic distances, around the silhouetted bells that have formed from the ceiling, the ones rising up out of the ground. All of them are thick with dust, whether near or far from you. And as you draw near to the ones on the ground, you see the strata, the dark and light bands of stone. They're made of exactly the same rock as everything else so far. There are many of these bells. If you turn around on your heels in here, you'll notice them up there in the shafts of light moving diagonally over this cavern. The nearer ones you can reach out and touch as they come up from the ground, dislodge some of that thick dust from the surface. Feel how smooth they are, how cold, how they don't give under your touch. Gradually, we can hear them as well. There's a chiming, but it's not too loud. It's random, perhaps from air movement, or the vibrations of the feet of all the visitors who've got off the boat. And of course now some are in the distance, being struck or tapped by the people. It's a long melodic noise, so low that you can barely hear it. A little way in front of you, there are some curious stone growths rising up from the floor 1.5 meters high. They're partly translucent. They seem to be of some orange and pink stone, very smooth and polished. Their tops flip up and over like the lips of flowers, and these protrusions are swaying very gently in the air. If you stand below a set of them and tap one with your fingernail, they chime as they move slowly back and forth. Round their base, down near the floor, there are some squeeze bells. These inflate when they ring, swelling outwards and then contracting as the notes are lost again to the ear. These squeeze bells can be rung with your feet. Try pressing down on them. What kind of note do you hear? For a few moments you're going to explore this room. Try out the different bells, the different sounds you can get from them, and see if the crystal you're holding in your hands can lead you to the bell tone that matches it. Find the sound that is this crystal's signature. You find yourself halfway across this long, slender arch of stone, crossing the clear waters below you, travelling from one stone room in this cavern over to another. Through the wall of distance now your feet move downwards until you're standing again on solid, firm stone. The waters are still and cold behind you. The light has been growing brighter and brighter. It's like a set of slow, strobing waves that move from one side of the cavern. All the light comes from the side that draws you, the side you're facing now. This light reaches you by stepping around and in places moving through tall shards of crystal that rise up from the ground. These crystals around you, they're almost like exhibits, rising as tall as you are. Their colours are visible some of the ways into their bodies. Purples, greens, blues and pinks, colours that are never quite textbook examples. In the world of stones, these colours are more approximations of many hues that were involved at the time of their creation. But let yourself be drawn to the ones that most appeal. Some of these crystals are like tall flowers, stone flowers. Along the lengths of their prisms, other crystals form petals, leaves. As you move through these many stones, you realize what it is that your stone, the one you're holding, wants to understand, what it doesn't know. It wants to know what kind of stone flower you are. It wants to be shown what your colors are inside, how translucent your body is, where the great temperatures shaped you into the form your mind has today. Now the press and the flow of others make some parts of you clear, other parts opaque. why you rise to a point, how many sides you have, or whether you're rounded and keep your form whilst encased by others. For a few moments, explore this cavern and show the stone you're holding what kind of stone flower you are yourself. Let the cavern's light illustrate this. Find a way for that light to shine through you. We've reached the very end of this cavern now, and the reason for the brightening light is revealed. With a delicious cool air that fans around you, that shifts the shadows left and right, there's a mist coating your arms with beads of fine water. This cavern is open on one side, but also entirely covered by a waterfall. White spray coils out and finds you. It comes from the edge of that thundering fall of water, echoing round the cavern, sound that's taken misty coiling form. In places the water is pounding into the black rocks, eroding it very gradually, century after century. This water completely seals the cavern from the outside world, but it does allow occasional draughts of fresh, pure air that you can breathe deep into yourself. And when you breathe in with all that mist, there's the vitality of moving water, fresh water. For a while you're hypnotized by this falling water, patterns shooting by that you can't focus on for more than a moment, that you'd like to watch forever. Going too close to this waterfall is unwise. But you go a little bit closer, knowing that the world outside feels like it's sunlit, a summer world full of life, animals and people. Beyond this water are the happy hunting grounds that many civilizations have spoken of, attained after death. And this is as far as we can go in our excursion into this cavern today. But we can still stay here a little while longer. Where the water curtain occasionally parts, just for a fraction of a second, you do get a teasing glimpse of the sky out there, a piece of land, the bough of a tree. So find somewhere to sit here, on a curved rock that's not too damp, that'll keep you dry. And let your eyes follow the patterns of the water falling down. Here and there you'll notice where a twig pokes through the water from outside, eternally dripping and bobbing, but giving a clue to what grows out there. It's possible as well that shapes might be formed against that white curtain, shapes from people coming close. People who are already out there, who are drawn near by your presence, sensing you've come very close to the boundary. This is a place to listen to the falling water, feel the cool mist settling around you, sense how the depths of light and dark play as the water descends. You also have your crystal close in your lap there, to drop inside whenever you want to see what else it has to teach you. And you may have people that you love who have come from this earth, now very close beyond a curtain of water. For a few moments, see what happens for you on this side of the waterfall. Now let's imagine in your mind's eye, you're still sitting in that chamber, the chamber near the waterfall. Your eyes now are closed. You can feel in reality and in your mind your eyelids pressing together with a gentle weight. And we're going to stay this way as we begin to bid farewell to this place we've visited. And before we depart, remember, these landscapes, these secret treasures are very easy to visit again. Indeed, you may find you come back here tonight in your dreams. While we're near the falling water, halfway between earth and open air, let's assemble some of the gifts we have to take back with us tonight. And don't worry if you can't remember all of these just now. They'll come back to you when they're needed. Remember the crystal you described yourself as being in that room of stone flowers where the crystals rose up like you. Remember as well that room of stone bells. Did you find a bell tone in there that matched your crystal? Remember the curious journey on the boat, all those people around you, the rock ceiling going overhead, those spindly stone walls, and of course the stone itself, the crystal you chose from the plate. Is that one you can feel the weight of in your hand? Remember vividly, take back with you. Before that dusty cellar, the old offerings, and perhaps most importantly, there we gave a dream, something we asked the universe to energize, something we'd like to manifest for us, going forwards when we return. Now that's a lot of different things, but they'll all come with you. Just give them a moment to find the right places in your mind to settle into. They'll come out, sometimes surprise you, just when they're needed. And still sitting in this cavern with the cool mist moving round us, settling over us, with our eyes closed, hearing that thundering water echo round the open space there. Notice now how that breeze, that mist, is circling you, spiraling. You can feel it gently moving over your shoulders, over your face, your forehead, your cheekbones. A cool, gentle breeze circling round and round, and you yourself, as you hear it and feel it, become more and more light. You feel like you are now as light as a feather, almost totally weightless. A speck of dust or a dry autumn leaf, something this breeze could easily pick up, and that's just what it does. As it goes round your shoulders, it takes them in gentle but firm hands, turns you onto your back so you can be lifted up, carried away. Now that breeze is moving you in the open air. Let yourself be carried upwards, and as the breeze takes you, as gentle, as wheeling as your own breath, the idea of those caverns is going to move away in your mind. Already we're some distance above them, and that great, white, thundering space is moving back, further into the background, and you're conscious instead of the self that's breathing, the body you've left somewhere behind, not too far away. Let's track it down now, breathing ourselves closer. Breathe yourself through the open air, those caverns now far back in your memory. Instead we go into the foreground. Let's explore where we left our bodies safely waiting, tethered on the earth. Breathe back to where you know you left your body, whether it's sitting or lying down. Find that outline and position yourself just a few inches above the top of your head. And we're going to now breathe ourselves back in, very carefully, very gently, making sure we don't leave any of ourselves out here in the open air. So take a breath in first of all. Feel how your chest expands a little bit, but this breath isn't just going to go into your chest, it goes all the way down, circling, spiraling, right down your legs, past your knees, to where the toes are. Breathe your essence in all the way down and leave yourself down there in your feet. Breathe in once more down the legs, the calves, the ankles, and fill ourselves now up to where the knees are. Breathe in once more and bring your essence down to where your thighs are, all the way to your hips. Now your legs and your feet are beginning to feel the right weight. And let's go down to the tummy, your back, all the way up the spine. Let's bring ourselves back in, so we're starting to flesh out our torso. Now your chest begins to feel like it's yours again. You can breathe air down your arms, down those twin tunnels, all the way down to the fingers, to the palms. Leave yourself down in your hands there. And now we've got our arms attached, the torso, the legs and the feet. Let's breathe in upwards now, going up into the head, up into the skull. And let's put that little bit of you that thinks, that tiny speck, back where it normally lives, between the eyes. And with your last few breaths, find any places in your body still that don't quite feel they've got you back. Anywhere there's a little bit light and spacey, that's where you want to breathe yourself back into. And when you're finally back in your body and you feel comfortable giving your toes a wiggle, moving your arms and your wrists and your fingers a little bit, let's open up our eyes.